Delighted to welcome back on the show. I haven't caught up with this man since I think it was UFC 189. And obviously, actually, I think it was to the day this last year we sat down in Sweden. It's the California kid, Urijah Faber. First of all, Urijah, how are you? Great to have you back on, mate.
Doing good, man. Just out here in Sacramento, about to go train at 1.
Good stuff.
So just gearing up for that.
Good stuff, mate. I want to touch on UFC 194 before we talk about last weekend and what's next for you, obviously, with TJ and Dom. But you got a terrific reception from the Irish crowd over there. Did you expect that?
You know what? I've always had pretty good responses from the fans. I was a little surprised. I feel like mine was a little. I was definitely aside from Conor, the biggest fan favorite. So I appreciate that. And I talked before. I have some Irish blood in me, and I've said some things in the past that are kind of funny, jockeying for position to coach against Conor and et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is, it was cool to see the fans get behind me.
Yeah, it was definitely. You're probably the second most cheered guy after Conor over there. It was pretty incredible reception the guys gave it. Assess that performance from Urijah against Frankie Santos. Looking back on it now, how do you look on and assess that performance?
Man, first I just got to say that guy is tough, and I knew that going in. I looked at his, his credentials as a high school wrestler, and he was far more decorated than I was coming up as a kid and as a young adult into college, and so I knew that he was going to be super mentally tough. I almost had him finish in the second. Just one small mistake that kept him in the fight. But, I did okay. I did about a minute and a half sprint trying to kill the guy with elbows and kicks and punches, and that took a little bit out of me, but I had to recover and had to push through and got the W.
Changing the weight classes again, was it a little bit tougher to adjust your body?
It wasn't. It wasn't bad. It was originally because I was still carrying that weight from when I went up to fight Frankie. But I started about 10 weeks out. So when you do anything about 10 weeks out, it's not a bad deal at all. So I got down to the first 6 or 7 pounds are probably the most difficult because you're shrinking your stomach and getting that extra weight off. But after that, it was business as usual.
Good stuff. And let's move on to last weekend's bantamweight world title fight. Obviously, your good buddy Dominic Cruz and your former training partner TJ Dillashaw. What were the emotions like watching on? I believe you're supposed to be actually in Mexico, but the UFC wanted you down there. How did you feel looking on at that fight?
With TJ and Cruz?
Yeah.
It was a close fight. I was watching, with cameras on me, and I'm curious to see what my reactions were because I was pretty instinctual at the time. But I thought TJ was very aggressive, but he missed so many punches and kicks and everything else. And Dom was actually hitting him, firing punches, moving backwards, and got the takedown. So I had a very close 4-1 to Dominic. Could have been 3-2 Dominic, but I had it 4-1.
Yeah, I gave 3-2.
I gave TJ the 4th round.
Yeah. I had a scored similar. I gave TJ the last 2 rounds. If TJ was in your corner and he was still one of your guys at Team Alpha Male, do you believe your experience and your previous fights against Dominic Cruz? Obviously, you've beaten Dominic once and you've lost to him once. Do you believe that would have made the difference?
I mean, that's always hard to say. TJ fought a great fight. I think, and hindsight's always 20/20, but I think I definitely could have had about 3 things that I would have reminded him throughout camp, and that I would have used as common sense that I think he didn't do. But I mean, who knows if that would have made the difference? You can't tell the future. It seemed like TJ was very well prepared. It did seem like both TJ and Dominic looked different. Like TJ looked smaller and Dominic looked a little flabbier than I've seen him in the past. But they both had great conditioning and they both had good offense. So, I mean, people put a lot of of weight on guys switching camps and that kind of thing. It's all mental. So whatever you believe is your best thing is the most important. Connor's a great example of that. He's a guy that believes himself, through and through. So if he believed in his camp, I mean, I think that was going to be the best we saw of him. But, I mean, it's unfortunate because, you win together and you lose together. Normally, in that type of situation, TJ would have our team to bounce back on and have support, etc. And, I mean, he still has some friends on the team, obviously, but just, it's got to be weird leaving the team for the first time, having a loss for the first time, and not having that support system that you're used to your entire career, But, I mean, that's probably the more unfortunate part.
Yeah, you mentioned, some of the guys are still friends on the team. I saw Justin Buchholz was in his corner. I think Joe was down sparring with him beforehand. You said you sort of didn't want the guys, training with TJ. I don't know whether it was an alpha male or in general. How did that work out with Justin Buchholz going down there with TJ corner on Saturday night?
I think that was just an obligation. Justin's really stepped up as one of the lead coaches in our team, along with Chris Holdsworth, and they've been just recently stepped up. Both are kind of putting their fight careers in hindsight, and TJ had asked Justin if he would be in his corner. He wanted to feel like he had some of his roots there with him, and Buchholz talked to me about it, and I said, yeah, I mean, if you want to. Unfortunately, Buchholz didn't get to train with him the entire camp. He didn't train with him at all. And so it was more of just like a figure, having somebody to remind you of the past, I guess, or give you some input or have a friend there. But I think that's the last time that Buchholz will be doing that. He's full time with our team. So I don't try to control anybody. It's not my business if you have friendships or whatever. My relationship, I'll take my experiences and go from there on my relationship with them. I'm not going to try to ruin anybody else's relationships.
And what about the other guys? Yeah, Joseph was down there as well. Is that something that you want to see happen down the line, or is it something you object to going down the line?
I don't know what's gonna happen. Is this we're gonna trim the fat, and we've got a great team, a great structure right now, and the guys that want to be with us will be with us, and the guys that don't won't. So. I know that the big fights we have coming up are Cody Garbrandt, and we're getting Paige back in the gym, and Andre Fili. We've got a whole host of young kids that are coming up, and Lance Palmer. I see the renewed fire in him.
Definitely.
He's been jumping around, kind of checking out other spots, in the off season, and that's been traditional for us. We've always done that with Team Alpha Male. It's when you turn your back and no longer claim the team and no longer be a part of the co-op, and that's the difference. That's the one difference, because TJ was already cross-training with Dwayne, and there's no issue with that. Dwayne was allowed to come back in our gym also. He wouldn't do that because he had his own spot, but it is what it is on that front. It's not about training anywhere else. It's about where do you lie? Where does your loyalty lie?
So is there guys that are going to be removing their loyalty from Team Alpha Male and going somewhere else that we know of?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. The friction that was caused, do you look at it down to being Dwayne Bang Ludwig, and has it caused friction within the gym? Obviously it has. You said there was guys, TJ was having a word in their ear, Dwayne was having a word in their ear when they're there trying to make them to move to elevation. Was there problems and friction in the gym, or has there been?
It's been a weird time in the gym over the last, we never had somebody, someone that we built up from scratch, win a championship and jump ship. So, I mean, it's obviously, and it's close relationships. So, it's kind of a weird gig. And then you put someone in a power position like Dwayne, and he's got his own set of goals in mind, basically not being broke like he was when I found him, and understanding of the reason why. So, that's its own animal, but I'm not worrying about any of that. I'm just focused on our team, the positivity we've got going. We've got some great things going. I should be having a big title fight coming up against Cruz. We've got Cody No Love, who's one of the top prospects, who's about to fight in February. We've got some of the biggest stars on the rise and in the sport on our team, and that's all I'm worried about. I don't want to worry about anything else. I mean, I know it's an interesting topic for people, but I'm kind of like, let it be.
Yeah. Let's move on and look again at last weekend. The UFC brought you there. I know you were planning to go down to Mexico. Do you think that was to stir the emotions? And, we've seen a lot of big fights recently, and especially I think the UFC are really striking while the iron is hot. Do you think that was purposely there for you to stir up the emotions with one or the other guy?
I think it makes sense to have me there. Cruz and I have had almost a decade-long rivalry, and I've never had a rivalry with anyone else in the sport. It's the only rivalry I've had, and vice versa for him. On top of that, there aren't many notable names. There's plenty of very, very talented fighters in the 135-pound division. Some killers, some technicians, some guys with some great skill sets. But guys that have been around and have built names and brands, etc. There's only a few.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that has brought the spotlight on the sport, and Cruz is the guy that's been a champion and just beat another former champion, and it makes sense to have me there. So that's I was definitely watching because I figured that'd be my next fight, one of the two.
Do you look on it? I know you want the title shot. I know you want to fight Dominic Cruz again. You said it, but do you look on it and think which is the bigger fight now from the UFC's point of view? Because they've been doing a lot of fights. We see Conor now against Rafael dos Anjos. We've seen numerous super fights. Yourself and Frankie over the last year. They've really been, as I said, they're striking while the iron's hot with these big fights. Is the bigger fight on paper you against TJ, or is it Dominic against you? In relation to the UFC making business at this moment in time?
I don't care about what it is to them. For me, I want to fight for the belt. I'm not going to be doing this thing forever, and those are the fights that matter to me. I wasn't real excited about the drama that would be involved in fighting TJ. It's not like a fun thing for me. I know it might be fun for everyone else, but I don't like fighting out of anger. I like to fight out of and I don't like to fight out of a bad place. I like to fight from a good place, and that's kind of been why I've been in this sport. I don't like to do stuff when I don't enjoy it, and it wasn't going to be a fun process for me. I would do it, but the fight that I want is for the belt, and that's Dominic Cruz, and he's proved that he's the best fighter in the world division right now, at least in the public's mind, and in a lot of people's mind. He proved that. So that's who I want to challenge, and that's the fight I want.
Yeah, we look at that fight, it's a fantastic fight on paper. But if the UFC were to go down that route and ask you to fight TJ before you got a title shot again, would you go down that line?
Yeah, I'd have to talk with the UFC brass. I'll talk to them about that. I'm not opposed to doing anything.
And I believe as well you're on Access TV tonight with Dana White. Is there going to be an announcement of any sort?
Say again?
I believe you're on Access TV tonight with Dana White. Is there going to be an announcement?
Oh, I have no idea. I forgot I was even on that. Thanks for reminding me.
All right, mate. We look at Dominic Cruz as well. I want to touch back on Dominic. The guy, obviously, his last fight was at UFC 178. Before this, against Takeya Mizugaki, finished Takeya in the first round. He hadn't fought for, I think, 2 or 3 years before that. Looking at his performance against TJ, were you surprised it was so technical and he was so good after being out for so long again?
No, I'm not that surprised. I don't really believe in ring rust either. That's for people that take breaks. I've never had any ring rust. I've had big layoffs and broken hands and bad legs, etc. Ring rust for me is not something that is a factor. It is for people that don't take this thing seriously. But yeah. I wasn't surprised. It's funny. I guess it's pretty technical, but it was more just unique than anything. He's got a strange style. He punches really well backing up, and he uses weird parts. He lands with his fist. He lands with his form. It's like swinging a bat. is what he's doing, not necessarily like pinpoint punching. So it's a unique style, and I've studied the style before. I've fought against it before. You know, I know he says that, you know, no one can hit him. I mean, I hit him last time we fought. I hit him a bunch of times and connected a bunch of times, and there's no secret that you know, that's a fight that I'm very familiar with, and I'm looking to get the belt.
And you're a guy, you've fought Dominic twice in the past. As I mentioned, you've one win and one loss against Dominic, and it was a very close one, the second one. Do you see, more holes in Dominic's game as he's got older and he's had that time out?
I won't say holes necessarily, but I feel like I have some good insight and a good plan to fight him. You know, and I did last time. I remember Dominic was saying he thought I had a good game plan to fight him last time.
Yeah.
But I think there's some adjustments to be made, and it's comical. People don't realize that you get all these keyboard warriors that throw in their 2 cents about this, that, and the other thing
Yeah.
on the opinions of merit of fighting or who has a chance and this and that. I mean, this is 13 years as a professional fighter for me. Continuing to learn from new people, having different experiences. If you watch my fights, none of my fights are the same. You don't see the same fighter. It's always different stuff, different arsenal, different creativity. Things are way different every single one of my fights. So I'm a hard guy to plan for. And I think Cruz is kind of in the same boat. You're talking about two guys that fight on instincts, and that's what makes for an exciting fight. And two guys that are very, very tough, two guys that are creative, two guys that are going to come in great shape and just try to find a way to win. So that's what I'm looking forward to is finding a way to win. And there's definitely ways that I can beat him, and I don't feel like he's got too many ways to beat me. He's got a real history of having great decisions. He doesn't have any submissions. He doesn't have any knockouts. Not in his Zuffa career, aside from his last one, Mizugaki, for ground and pound. But he's got one, and that's it. And I'm a guy that's dangerous.
It certainly looks as though it's aiming. It's gearing up towards the year of the rematch. I think we're going to have a lot of rematches this year. Including yourself and Dominic. We've Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold is probably going to happen. John Jones, Daniel Cormier, maybe Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm at the end of the year, and a numerous amount of other ones that are potentially in the pipeline. This is obviously a fantastic match, and as you mentioned, the technique and the experience of both guys, yourself and Dom. We've always had that little bit of beef between you guys. That sort of makes it more fascinating as well. And when do you think that's gonna all start? When the fight's announced?
Let's say again.
The beef between yourself and Dominic. When do you think that's gonna all kick off again?
That's a real beef, and I think it's gonna add to the flavor of this thing. Not only have we both done some some great things in our careers, but there's a genuine dislike for each other, and that always makes for a good fight.
Definitely. Just a couple of more things, Uriah, before we let you out of here. I do appreciate the time as always. Chris Holdsworth, you mentioned there. He's heading up, the coaching along with Justin Buchholz. We know he had that head injury. Has he putting his career on the sideline for the moment? Is there any word in him potentially coming back to the UFC?
He has put it temporarily on the sideline, but he's never counting himself out. But it's unfortunate. The head trauma that he's experienced and the way he's feeling right now, he just wants to take some time and really focus on continuing to do his passion and making a living doing that. And he's much needed and much appreciated because he's an amazing coach. And of course, he's never counting himself out on making that comeback. But and he's a very young guy, so who knows what'll happen. But right now, he's going to continue to sharpen his skills by teaching others.
Excellent. And are you still searching for a head coach?
No, we're not. We've got everything covered. We've been having 6 or 7 coaches in the gym every single day, from mittmen to black belts in jiu-jitsu to wrestling coaches. I mean, that's kind of kind of a thing that the media has kind of created. You know,
Yeah.
Master Tong, he's still in the gym, but there was a time when he was kind of in and out, and he's actually newly committed. But the reason we brought in Dwayne is because Master Tong had found another spot to be out in Texas, and you know, we've had coaches the entire time. It's been a storyline that people are creating.
Yeah.
Right now, we've got an amazing staff of coaches and some guys that are excited to be there. And I mean, if you look in our gym, you come in and there's 4 different guys holding mitts, and there's every day in practice there's a ton of knowledge watching the young guys develop. And you know, we've got probably 5 or 6 top level black belts in the gym. We've got Division I wrestlers and national finalists, and we've got, you know, high level striking coaches. I mean, we've got a great mix over here.
Ideally, when do you want this title fight to happen, Urijah? When are you ready to go again?
I'm ready. I just got cleared for my rib. I got a X-ray the other day, and said it's not broken. It's just been bugging me a little bit. So a couple months would be good. April, May, something like that.
And any final parting words for Dominic Cruz?
Well, keep going through the footwork, buddy, and I hope you heal up, stay healthy. I know it's hard for that guy to stay healthy. You know, I'm basically doing one last hurrah, swiping that belt, and riding off into the sunset. So, too bad for him.
So if you win this title, you're going to call it a day. Is that what you've just said? No?
No.
Okay. All right. Urijah, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Do appreciate the time. Anyone you want to give a shout out to, anyone like that?
All good. Check out torque1.net. Let's get some Irish folks rocking the Torque brand.
Did you get your pythons?
we don't have any pythons. I might make a python shirt. We'll see.
Urijah, it's always a pleasure, mate. I do appreciate the time, and looking forward to seeing that title fight, and hopefully it happens soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.